Hello and welcome to Metawatch for the 20th of October. As per usual, we'll be running through the UK events recap, just 2 events to talk about this time, unless I missed some, but hopefully I haven't. We'll go through quickly what upcoming UK events there are, then we'll move on to discussion about wider meta win rates, talk about some of the overperforming teams, underperforming teams, maybe focus on one or two, and then for any of the subscribers to the channel, I'll go into a tactical tip. And then finally, I'll do a Patreon priority question to pay back the patrons for supporting the channel. So with all that said, let's get into it.
Hello and welcome to Turning Point Tactics, the competitive Killteam 40k YouTube channel focused on giving you the strategies and tactics to seize initiative every turning point. I'm your host Ryan, and I'm here to help give you the tips and tricks to elevate every part of your Killteam experience. So no matter if you're a casual or a competitive player, there should be something here for you. If you're interested in supporting the channel, there's a few ways you can go about doing so. You can join the Patreon, where you get access to members only Discord, Patreon priority questions, early access to content, exclusive content, and tournament awards. Or if you find yourself buying Killteam goodies or hobby supplies, you can use one of our affiliate links in the description below, or discount codes with Crossfire Games and GG Prints. We're always keen to hear your thoughts and feedback, so don't leave that comment box empty, let us know what you think. Once again, thanks for your support, and with all that said, let's get into it.
Okay, so there was 2 events over the last weekend. There was one down in Brighton with 38 players, and there was one in Merseyside with 20 players. So we'll start with the Merseyside event first with 20 players. So as you can see, it's called the Red Tide of Merseyside, and a pretty decent amount of players and 4 rounds, which is pretty cool to see. What I will say about this is, actually looking at the names in the list, it's a pretty intensive roster of names. So there's a bit of a Shark Tank, but good to see because it means that people got a good workout here. So let's go through the top 3 because I think it's worth focusing on the top 3. But obviously, congratulations to everyone else who played. So we'll start down in 3rd place with Chris Turner, part of the aggressive Northern Meta, running his Canoptic Circle and going 3 wins and a single loss. So fantastic to see, and again, probably just showing or highlighting, we should say, the strength in Canoptic Circle that are doing so well at the moment. Now, I haven't covered the various balance status late changes that are coming out ahead of the World Championships, but it's probably worth to note that this team is getting quite a few nerfs ahead of the World Championships of Warhammer. So I'll be interested to see if Chris sticks with the team, if he can continue to replicate the success post nerfs, because they get hit quite hard. Now, of note, Chris's 3 wins are all different players, but the single loss that he has here is to the actual event winner, also playing Canoptic Circle. So it turns out that the only thing you have to be scared about as Canoptic Circle is Canoptic Circle. I, of course, jest. But Chris is a great player. He's been doing competitive quite a long time now. I think as long as I know, I've known Killteam. And great to see him doing so well in 3rd place. So congratulations, Chris, on your performance there. In 2nd place is Ryan Molson. The strength goes to the Ryans again. I know it is about Ryans, but we're just apparently really good at Killteam. I jest, obviously. But Killteam Lancashire representing with Goremongers going undefeated as well, which is awesome to see. So I remember when I think Ryan played Felgor back in the day, and he's a few other teams, but he's always like a top level opponent, and really one to watch out for. So I'm not surprised to see him doing so well with Goremongers and going undefeated with 4 wins. That's epic to see. Goremongers, I think, are in an interesting place because if you can avoid some of their bad matchups, I think you're off to a winner. I just feel like against elites, which are so prevalent at the moment, they can struggle a little bit. And I think that's like one of those, essentially, if you can reliably, in a single activation, deal 2 instances of 6 damage in shooting, then you can really hurt Goremongers. And if you have methods to get around their damage breakpoint and damage reduction, be that your Inquisitorial Agents or you have like the digital weapons or something like this that Deathwatch have, then actually you can essentially get around that breakpoint and really hurt them in melee as well. And the only other thing that I'll just comment on Goremongers is again, just I personally think they're so swingy because I played a great game at the World Team Championship, against Liam from Australia, and he charged me with a relentless stalker into a Zangor with a banner, and pretty much 99% of the time you're expecting that Zangor to die. What no one was expecting was him to roll basically a single hit and me to roll, I think, 2 hits and 2 crits or something. And then for him to lose his actual model in his own activation, that's wild, right? And that's the issue with melee teams, in my opinion, is that when the dice go against you with a melee model, it means you often lose a model in your own activation. And with only 8 models, and that being your sort of primary means of getting damage done, that can really hurt. And it's just against those teams that are good at melee that there's a risk of that happening. But with their ability to, use rake and that sort of thing to chip away the sort of wounds and deal damage in ways you're not necessarily expecting, and with the huge threat range the team presents, they can often catch you off guard. Like pretty much whenever you're playing against Goremongers, in my opinion, the attitude you have to have is you are within charge range. It's like you're going to be within charge range unless you find a way to hide an advantage with a razor wire or something like this to force them not to be. So there we go. But congratulations, Ryan, on your undefeated streak and doing so well with Goremongers. And then finally, in first place, it's the Bad Apple himself. It's Ben Palin making a return to competitive Killteam, because Ben's been away from the scene for a little while. He's been playing, I think, was it Spearhead, the AOS game, whatever it is, a bit more of a chill vibe. But he's just come back in and stepped straight back in with nothing else than the Canoptic Circle itself. So immediately on hard mode and going in and absolutely crushing this tournament. So new tac ops, new game system, new addition, all that sort of stuff, new team, and just showing his dominance really. So amazing work, Ben, for crushing it with Canoptic Circle. Of interest, and the reason why I think this is such a noteworthy win is he played obviously Chris in third place. That was his last game. His first game was against David Law, who came fourth. His third game was against Tom Shaw, who came fifth, and his second game was against Conor Meacham, who came sixth. So he played basically all of the other top players outside Ryan Mawson, and had these guys then played again, that would have been essentially the whole top of the tournament played Ben, and he did really well, doing 21, 17, 16, 16. So that's a very impressive streak against a lot of very strong opponents. Looking at the list of names, there's some great players there. So awesome to see another Northern event, and congratulations to Ben for your first place win with Canoptic Circle. It'll be interesting to see, as I said, how many players stick with Canoptic Circle once the balanced data slate changes go through. And then the larger event of the weekend was the Brighton Battlegrounds. So as I said, I think it was 38 players. Yeah, 38 players, and a interesting spread in the top 8. In fact, I'll just quickly highlight this. So I know, I think people at the moment, we sort of know what the top teams are. I think a lot of people are pretty much agreed that Standfast Nerfs and that sort of thing. But Canoptic Circle, Deathwatch, Hierotek Circle, Nemesis Claw, all that sort of stuff are all performing pretty well. And this is all pre-changes, just for awareness. But what will be interesting to see is how much that changes. But what I do like to see is if we look at the top 8, we have Wrecker in 8th, then Raveners, then Corsair Voidsguard, then Nemesis Claw, then Deathwatch, then Chaos Cult, then Canoptic Circle, and then Hearthkin Salvages. So I think it's pretty cool to see that actually within the top 8 we have 8 different teams. That's pretty cool. For the Red Tide and Merseyside, it was Canoptic Circle, Goremongers, Canoptic Circle, Duplication, Blazercane, Nemesis Core, Commandos, Goremongers again, and then Felgor Ravagers. So a couple of duplications here, but not loads. And then in this one, quite a good spread, which I think is pretty healthy for the meta. For most players, if you can find one of these teams you like, you're into a winner. So we'll start in third place. So Nick Collins, obviously repping from the old ones, going with Chaos Cult. Chaos Cult's been sort of his go-to team for a little while now, so I'm obviously not surprised to see him running them again. And a pretty consistent performance, only losing, I believe, in the last game to Bart, the overall winner. So rightly so, coming in third place with an opponent game win percentage of 75%. So that's a very high opponent game win percentage. So Nick had a pretty tough tournament by the looks of it. But yeah, doing really well with Chaos Cult. Now Chaos Cult again, like they're hanging around for a little bit longer because obviously that they're released a little bit later than the sort of the initial teams. So we have them for a little bit. Seek and Destroy and Infiltration. Like I am interested to know how people are getting on with it. Like with a bit more games under their belt, because Seek and Destroy for Chaos Cult, I feel like things like Dominate, right? If you take them on a Torments are tough to kill, but I feel that they are killable for a lot of teams. So I don't know if you can get that, the points you need on Dominate, but I guess they can get the double kill in TP3, so maybe you just play a later game, Surge game with Dominate. For Rout and that sort of stuff, I wonder how easy it is on Turning Point 2 to play against an aware opponent against Rout and get those kills. So I feel like maybe they do better with the Infiltrate, with the sort of the Steal Intelligence, where you can kill people and pick up markers at the end of the game, because then you don't need to get too many kills, and usually with Chaos Cult, you're aiming to sort of run away with it on Turning Point 4 anyway, to have excess bodies and that sort of stuff. So if you don't have that, you're probably in a bad spot. So I wonder if that's the standard gameplay, or maybe on the right map, being able to do plant devices. If you can get the sort of the bodies up with the GA2 potentially to plant a device on the opponent's home objective and guarantee you some VP there. But great to see Chaos Cult, as I said, doing well. Another team to add to that list of teams that we are seeing performing decently. And in second place is Luke Henson from Killteam Brighton, the up-and-coming Killteam Brighton, obviously at Brighton Battlegrounds, so it makes sense. Running Canoptic Circle. So, again, I don't really have too much more to say about Canoptic Circle, other than congratulations to Luke for your undefeated streak. Again, some pretty good results here. So 20, 15, 21 and 19 are some pretty strong results. Now, interestingly, I think we did sort of say that we thought generically as a community that scores of 21 would be pretty rare this edition, but we're seeing on tournaments that they're still being achieved, but they are, I would suggest, much rarer than they are last time. So that's a particularly effective game when you've managed to sort of table your opponent, max your attack up and max on crit up. That's done, you've done well. There's nowhere to improve at that point, right? So congratulations to Luke for your run with Canoptic Circle. And then in first place with Hearthkin Salvages is Bart from the old ones as well. Obviously, we know Bart, he's been on the channel and will probably be getting on the channel again soon. Now, I also know that Bart was experimenting with Canoptic Circle, but decided to go back to Hearthkin Salvages as they sort of suited his playstyle a bit better, and clearly had a very strong tournament performance with them, picking up the lessons from LGT, where he took Hearthkin Salvages previously, and went into a lot of those difficult matchups. I do think that with the buffs that this team are going to get, that they're going to be, I think, very meta relevant. I mean, you can see Bart's a very strong player, so clearly there's an element to this which is player skill, which is piloting Hearthkin Salvages to the top. But if he's able to do max point games and get to the top of tournaments before buffs, and the next thing to note is this is before buffs and before nerfs for everyone else, then he should be in a really strong place. Because I think a lot of people, when they look at buffs and nerfs, they forget that if your team didn't get too much, it's worth to note the teams that lost. Because if the teams around you got nerfed, then your team essentially got buffed as a result. And it might not feel that way, and obviously we prefer buffs, but it's just worth noting that. So whenever you look at a balanced data set, if you think, oh, my team didn't get actually as much as I thought it was going to, but some of your worst matchups got heavily hit, then potentially you're in a much better position going forward. So look at it from that perspective as well when you look at your buffs and your nerfs. But congratulations to Bart for rocking it with Hearthkin Salvages, showing that the Dwarves really hold a grudge and can come back and perform with strength, getting first place at the Brighton Battlegrounds, which I can imagine was, judging by some of the names on this list, a very, very difficult day for a lot of people, because there were some very strong players, I think. Just looking at all the names I'm seeing on here are familiar names I've seen from the top of various tournaments. So I can only imagine that was a particularly difficult tournament to win. Okay, so with that said, we'll go into now having a look at some of the upcoming UK events. So again, if you want to have a look at the upcoming UK event, you can just go into talkify.com/Killteam events/pinboard. If you're a TO and you can't see your event listed and you want to try and advertise it and get more people coming to your events, you can just submit an event by clicking this link here. It'll take you through to a form. You fill in your details on the form, upload a picture, and your event will appear on the list. It's nice and simple. So coming up on the 25th of October on the Saturday, we have a Yorkshire Killteam event as well as a Rolling Zeros Invitational. Into the beginning of November then, the Norwich Killteam Autumn event has sold out now, which I'm absolutely not surprised by. These guys are incredibly fun, and it's a great venue, so I'm sure the people who are going there are going to have a great time doing that. Then we have a team tournament in mid-November, Killteam up in Edinburgh running theirs. Then went to Curtin, have an event for 3-round beginner friendly event. Rolling Zeros are having another narrative event in November. And then Killteam Stoke, sorry I was struggling to remember the acronym, Killteam Stoke have sold out their November event, and there's another narrative event, partnership between Once Upon a Killteam and Norwich Killteam on the 29th of November, and then into, end of November we have another Yorkshire Killteam event and the Invitational, and then into December we have the start of the UKTC season with the Leicester GT, and if you want to buy tickets for that, you can go to the uktc.events/Killteam and you can get your tickets for the Leicester GT. So loads of stuff going on. I know there is more events than this. This is just the ones that are on this pinboard. So if you see events that you want to advertise and get on there, then submit an event on that form, get it up there, and then more people hopefully will come to those events, and we'll see more Killteam players playing more Killteam, which is what it's all about, which is awesome to see. So that is upcoming Killteam events. So we're going to roll straight into win rates and wider meta discussion. So for those who don't know, Smiles, Dies and Gunfire has updated the UI to show a bit more of a condensed view or a chart view. So I'll just go through and just talk through, I guess, some of the bits that are interesting, and if there's any rule changes that are worthy of note. But it's not too surprising this week, if I'm totally honest. But the data sets are continuing to grow, and it's worth noting that there's some teams that are getting some buffs and some teams that are getting nerfs, and how we think that might affect them. So starting off at the top, we have Canoptic Circle. So again, like a popular faction, continuing to win well with a great win rate and great placing rate. We can actually see here, which shows you that on rankings, the combined view. They are doing exceptionally well, and they are probably the team that is being hit hardest by the nerf bat coming up next, which makes sense, right? Because I think everyone knew going into it they just had a little bit too much, maybe, that they didn't need all of it. Is my 2 cents. I'm just going to quickly just touch on some of the nerfs and think how I imagine it's going to be impactful. So the first thing is obviously the Geomancer not being able to go to 4 APL. That's really going to hurt them in some of the elite matchups. And the reason being is when you're going against another elite player, being able to be 4 APL means that you can pretty much have primacy on crit op control. And if you're playing things like Retrieval, you can move your Geomancer onto your Matrix and just take the objective from them and play the crit op in ways that they simply can't, which is really strong. So that being reduced to 3 as a maximum is going to reduce their ability to contest and control objectives, as well as their EPL efficiency for being able to do all the command actions, the shoot actions, and that sort of stuff that they want to do, because they often want to do a dimensional breach, they want to shoot someone, they want to move, they want to command someone, and like as soon as you start losing APL, you have to start making some harder decisions with that. So that's a big change for the Canoptic Circle. And then the other thing that's worth to note is that their healing is getting reduced to only once per turning point. This is really good for horde teams, because if you're an elite team, they won't get too many counteracts anyway, so maybe they'll get 2 heals per turn, but now it's a maximum of 1. So better for hordes, still helps elites, but I think this is going to make the team feel a little bit less oppressive at times, because when you do a bunch of damage in a turning point, you maybe throw away your multi-gun to do damage, whatever, and then it gets healed up, and then you throw your plasma gun and it gets healed up, it can often feel like you're not denting, right? You're doing nothing with your activations, and that kind of hurts. So I think this is like a feels good nerf for people playing against you. But the team is still going to be very durable. 21 wounds, 3 up saves, ceaseless armor saves if you need to have it, just a scratch, and 3d3 heal is plenty. And then when you activate another d3, like that's efficient healing for a turn. Like I think most people can probably deal with that. And the Geomancer's Seek Light weapon has taken a nerf as well, so it's reduced down to 5 attacks, and the damage stat changed to 1/2 rather than 1/3. This is good for ITD, because essentially on ITD, having Seek Light, Blast, Stun, and 1/3 damage is gross, and just the potential just to kill stuff, particularly with 6 attacks. It's so many attacks. You just get unexpected kills with a weapon that's supposed to be stunning people. So hopefully that just tones it down a little bit. Means it's not like a murder machine that you get to have for free on those more open maps. And then the buff, I guess, is the fact that the dimensional banishment works through medics now, as well as frenzy rules and that sort of stuff. So pretty cool that it just banishes people out of existence. We'll see how impactful that is. It might help them in certain matchups, particularly against, I guess, Goremongers, Felgor, or if they're playing against a team that's particularly strong on medics. Can't think of one to mind just yet, but I'm sure there is one. And also they clarified that you have to measure through walls. So 64% win rate right now, huge player base, winning loads of events. Do I think that this is going to knock them out of the meta? Do I think it's going to make them uncompetitive? No, I don't think so. I think they're still going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be harder to play. I think they're going to go down maybe to like a 55% win rate, but I can still see them winning events. I can still see them doing particularly well. It probably means you're not going to be on easy mode when you play them. You're going to have to be a bit more careful with your APL, your efficiency, where you choose to heal, where your reanimator is positioned, and that sort of stuff. So I personally don't see them being knocked out of relevance, but worth being aware of. Gallippox, obviously, we talked about. I think they have received a nerf. I'm not really too sure what the nerf means, if I'm honest. This is a team that I don't like play against at all. As you can see, it's a small player base, 90 games. Really, I mean, that could just be like 2 players really playing Gallippox. They seem to be doing really well, and they seem to be very strong. But I don't have a reference to say, based on this nerf, they're going to be bad or good or whatever. So unfortunately, I just don't have the expertise against that team to be able to tell you. So I'd be guessing. I don't want to do that. But they received a subtle nerf. Void Dancers then in 4th place. They've also taken a little bit of a hit. Now I have played as Void Dancers. I was doing some prep for them for the World Team Championship, and I played against them quite a bit as well. And they actually received like quite a few hits, which I guess kind of makes sense because they've been doing pretty much above average win rate and above average podium data for a while now. So yeah, I can kind of see it. So I'll just talk through the various changes and how impactful I think they're going to be. So the first one is the Shadow Seer operative is that the Seek Hallucinating Grenade is now just gone to Seek Light, and that's actually like you probably didn't think it, but it actually is pretty impactful. Trying to avoid taking a Seek Blast grenade is really difficult, particularly if you're on ITD and you're in like a hatchway or something like this, because there's no way you can hide, and they can do it from so far away. But it wasn't a big damage dealer. But what it did do was hurt teams that needed the APL to do damage, such as any sort of melee horde. So that for them is going to make it harder for them, which amusingly is like it's teams like Felgor and Goremongers that I think this team really struggled into anyway. So their worst matchup has kind of got worse in my opinion. And well, Goremongers was better than Felgor. I found Felgor to be a almost impossible matchup if you had equally skilled opponents, in my opinion. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because you're now not going to be able to get those stuns off quite so easily as you would do before. Next, the blade weapon is gaining damage which means it's going to be better against elites, but it's going to lose the severe weapon rule. So the damage stat is now 4/6 rather than 4/5, and they lost severe. Now, on paper, this looks like kind of an upgrade because most of the time, if you're rolling 5 attack dice, I think it's like a 55, or is it 55? I think it's like 55% chance that you roll a 6. So most of the time, you're going to get a crit anyway, and that crit's just going to do more damage, which then means you can do your murderous entrance for more damage, and it means that it's better for breakpoints. If you're trying to kill like a 14 wound model, you can do that easier because you're now going to do 6 + 4 + 4. That's good. That works. But what it does mean is that you haven't got the guaranteed crit, and the bit that I think people like with the guaranteed crit is the safety net that it gives you with their ploys. So essentially, you knew when you charge into combat as Void Dancers that as long as I got a single hit, it doesn't matter. Like if I get a single hit, I can spend a CP or use the free player ability to strike and fall back, and I can just end the combat there and then I can shoot you and do whatever else I need to do. Or if I roll really well, I'll stay and fight. Or if I roll averagely, I'll do a murderous entrance and maybe use the talisman to make it into a winning scenario for a kill anyway. So like they had this sort of like safety net that was always there whenever they did a charge because, oh, I only rolled 1 hit, don't worry, it's actually a crit and I'm good. Or I rolled no hits, actually I saw my talisman's available, I've now got a single hit, crit, whatever, you good, right? Those safety nets have now gone. So that's like an interesting change, right? Because as each of those sort of safety nets go away, they're now more dice reliant, and as a team they feel very dice reliant with the way that like prismatic blur works and all this sort of stuff. The other thing that's changed though, which is going to help some teams that are like have various piercing weapons, is the change to Harlequin's Monopoly. So essentially, if you don't get a crit, then you can reduce the piercing by 1, and therefore piercing 1 will be ignored. So there's certain teams that have like severe shooting when it comes to gaining crits. Actually, I sort of thought about this with Deathwatch as well, that you can guarantee a crit by giving yourself severe. But it's just going to reduce one of their attack dice. I actually really like this as a change of getting around the ignore piercing altogether. I think it's a much nicer change because it's like it still has a purpose, like being able to reduce piercing, but it's not like your piercing doesn't affect at all. So I wonder if it's something that like Wormblade should have as well on their guys. I just think that's sort of like as a generic rule. I think it's pretty cool. And then sorry, I'm going to get lost in this if I'm not too careful. And then yeah, if you the change to the curtain falls is you can't kill someone and then dash away from a dead body. You have to kill them and do a fallback, which means that against Night Lords and anyone with chains and that sort of stuff, it's harder for you to potentially fall back because you need the model to be alive still and therefore interact with manacles or chain snares or whatever for more interactions. So overall, I don't think this is going to like tank their win rate. Like Void Dancers were always, in my opinion, fragile. I don't know what it was, but like it was the way Domino Field works on a 4-up invulnerable save with only 8 wounds is you're always just playing this game of stuff just dies like glass cannons, and that was just the way of it. And then you would get lucky and stuff would survive, and essentially this has kind of maintained that. So I guess the main thing is that the like less frequency, you'll get that luck less frequently. So potentially they'll go down, but not by a huge amount. So I would expect them still to be around 55, 54 or something like that, assuming players continue to play them post cycling out. But we'll see. Next, Wormblade remains as they are. Nil changes to them in the balanced data slate. Too small a data set for people to really have an opinion on them, I think. And then in 5th place is Deathwatch, and they only got a pretty small nerf actually, which in my opinion means that they broadly got buffed, which again sounds weird, but they got 2 nerfs, but I'm going to talk about this separately. But the nerf that's aimed at them was the Demolisher Operative not being able to stack the damage reduction with the Shield Displays, and that's fine. Like most of the time, -1 damage is absolutely fine. -2 damage was just a bit excessive, and I don't think it came up a huge amount where it became problematic, in my opinion, because of the way that the damage worked as well. Like if you took 4 damage, you make it 3 damage before the fight anyway, and then you don't have it. So it's only when you're being hit by like 5 damage weapons or 6 damage weapons that it became impactful, and that wasn't that often. As in, like, well, it happens, but like it's usually 1 hit during a fight. It's not going to be, if you're doing a fight and you're taking like 2 rounds of 6 damage, you're probably fighting the wrong guy, in my opinion. So don't do that, but not a huge nerf, in my opinion. But the thing that I will comment on is the nerf that I think this team got, which is way more impactful, is the overall nerf to smoke grenades. So smoke grenades now don't, like, I'm going to read it out. So while synoptives in holding area smoke, weapons with the piercing 2 or piercing crits 2 weapon rule have the piercing 1 or piercing crits 1 weapon rule respectively instead. So AP1 across the board just got a whole lot better, like a whole lot better, because people would use smoke grenades to get around AP1, and it would negate all of it. And now piercing 2 as well has also got a whole lot better, because essentially you now have, like, if you get a crit, and there's so many people with piercing 2 and severe, it's unreal. Like, I think Kaz can have access to severe, the missionaries and sanctifiers have access to severe. There's other people that have access to severe, I'm sure. Those are the ones that come to mind. But the point being is that, like, your piercing 1 weapons are now more impactful, and therefore the ability to hide in smoke and just survive and just chill out in it is way less. And even being hit by piercing 2 is also more impactful. So that for Deathwatch, in my opinion, is a huge nerf, because with a team with less models and essentially the double counteract and stuff, like, one of the key techniques is being able to shoot smoke, or move, shoot, smoke, whatever it is, shoot, smoke. Whatever you need to do, or one of my favourites is throw smoke, charge into it, and then fight. Just like increase your durability with those only having 5 models. So that for me is a significant nerf to the durability of that team, because you're expending that APL for your durability, but it's not giving you the buffs that it used to. And there's various teams that now are going to get a lot more utility out of their piercing 1. So that's good to see. So I think it's a good change. In fact, I think all of the balance changes are good. I'll do a more focused video on it, but I just want to talk about those balance changes with respect to those teams, and then we'll just talk about some of the weaker teams in the meta at the moment, and talk about some of their balance changes. So first up, let's talk about Kazakin, because this is the team that's been, I guess, wallowing for a little while, like just trying to get through their, what is it, 36% win rate. Oof, like. Not many people are playing them, but they receive some significant buffs. And the question is going to be, is it going to be enough? Oh, sorry, I should say, I'll quickly just finish off on Deathwatch, because I just realised I didn't say. Deathwatch, I think, will either go up, or they'll probably go up in win rate. Because everything else got worse, I think, around them, they'll go up, but I might be wrong. Not by much, though. I'm going to say, like, 57.5, something like that is what I expect, and they'll continue to win events. Is what I'm guessing. But they're going to have some big predators out there with some of the buffs that have been handed out as well. So Kazakin, sorry. So they've changed Siege Initiative, which is cool, because essentially they used to have the reroll your initiative, right? Which now with the initiative cards and that sort of stuff is less impactful. And the way it was, you had to spend a CP at the end of the last firefight phase to then be able to do it in the next firefight phase, which is horrible. So this is much better, and it essentially means at the start of the firefight phase, you can perform a 1 AP action for free, but it cannot move during that action, and you cannot use deploy if you're the player with initiative. So I like it. It's literally Siege Initiative. You get to do something for someone else. The reason why it's big is because if you do like a last activation, move, dash, melta gun someone in the face, and your melta gunner has a second valid target, you know that irrespective of what happens on that initiative roll, he's shooting someone before he goes. Like, he's going to get another shot. Or if that model has been left alive, you're going to get another shot. This is really useful into like the Felgor matchup or into the Goremonger matchup, where you need to be able to like effectively trade a model, and you know that like you're not going to kill him in a single hit. So maybe they leave someone exposed, you move dash, you shoot him in the face, and then you know you have that second ability to then go, I'll shoot you. One thing I should probably just caveat that against the Goremongers is that they will just charge you with the strat phase point. But by the by, like hypothetically, if you have a shot, you can get it. Maybe set up 2 shots. Before I get too into the weeds of tactics. And then the next one is their reroll ploy. Now works against non-expended operatives, so that's nice. Just a bit of just makes it easier to use essentially. And then a really nice change is the change to covered retreat, which I actually really like. So they've removed the requirement for it to be a ready friendly operative, which is nice. But essentially, when you fall back from an enemy operative, you can select someone within 6 inches, and that operative can flip to engage and perform a shoot action. That's really cool for APL efficiency. Now, this is assuming that you can fall back because you're not playing against someone who has chain snares or something like this, and that you've been left alive in melee somehow, which is another potential thing. But in that scenario, like, and where those 2 things are true, and you get to fall back from someone, it then means that you get to get a double kill off because the person behind you can shoot. You get some, they can get that kill, and then maybe you can get a kill somewhere else as well. And it just really helps your APL efficiency of the team because you get those free actions, which is great to see. And then finally, Relics Arcadia also helps when fighting or retaliating rather than just shooting. So Kazkin got some buffs. Do I think it's enough? I don't, if I'm honest. I still think the Goremongers matchup is going to be horrible. I still think the Felgor matchup is going to be horrible. I don't know if it's going to be enough. I don't think so, but it's definitely going in the right direction. I think they're going to be a lot more fun to play, which is cool. I love the creativity of the change to the Siege Initiative ploy. I think that's great. So I like all the changes. I think they're going to go to maybe like 40% win rate or something like this. But yeah, I don't think right now it's like this team's now going to slap. Maybe I'm being harsh. Maybe I need to put them on the table. Maybe I need to give them a go and just and see where they're at. But that's my initial thoughts. Is like they're getting there. They're on the right trajectory, but they probably just need a little bit more help. That's Kazakin. Cool. Pathfinders. I don't think they got any changes. I might be wrong. So I think they're going to stay as they are. I think the other teams around them just got better, mostly. So yeah, I don't think they're going to do particularly well. I think they're going to stay at the bottom. Same can be said for Deathcore. I'm almost certain that they. I mean, I read this and then I just like maybe there's something hidden in here, but there's not. So yeah, don't think Deathcore are getting much love either. Again, I expect them to sit around 40%. So I think these 3 are going to be vying it out for like the worst team in the game, which is like sad to see 2 Imperial Guard teams now like at the bottom. When there was a time not that long ago in the old edition where these were the best teams in the game. So how the turns have tabled. Table of turns. Sorry. Okay, Exaction Squad. So this is a team I think is going to be really interesting because they have access to a lot of piercing 1. Well, now they have access to two sets with their specialist ammunition. Smoke grenades have got worse. People's ability to fall back from you with their silly ploys has got worse from the manacles. So that's all a buff. And they've just got straight better, in my opinion. And a lot of their worst matchups have also got better. The change to the Veriscan, I don't think changes much. I mean, getting Lethal 5 and Severe is like, okay, it's nice. I'm trying to think where it's like particularly important. I don't think it is. I don't think there's any of the gunners where I'm like, now that's like changed the way that the gunner works. So I think they're in a similar position with the Veriscan, but the 2 use of special issue shells is nice. So against those armored targets, getting piercing 1 twice is going to be really helpful versus elites. It's just going to help force that damage through, particularly now I'm not going to be able to avoid it with any smoke. And a lot of the teams not being able to fall back from them and being stuck more in melee is going to be great as well. So I think that's a pretty good set of changes for them. Note also that a lot of the other teams that they were struggling against have all gotten worse. So those are the bits that I think is the exaction. I think are on the way up. I don't think it's going to be crazy. Will they hit 50%? I'm gonna say no. I think they're gonna go to 47.5. I think they do well. They'll be better. I think they're gonna go above the threshold of you need to be worrying about them. But I don't think they're gonna be doing particularly well. Maybe, yeah. Hopefully they're above 45% into that sweet middle zone that we're expecting. But that's kind of what I'm expecting with them. So great to see. Again, growing player base. I think a lot of people do like this team. I actually really like them. I've got some great models, and I enjoy playing them. But I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I can't quite figure out why they're not good. If that makes sense. Whenever I play them, it just feels like you always win by a small margin, never by much, and that feels like you should be able to get more out of it. Anyway. Finally, I'll just talk about scouts, which they also receive some buffs. I've been trying to figure out if it's how impactful it is or not. Hard to say. So obviously still at 42% at the moment. They're changing the way that their poise work. So you now don't have to spend for both your melee and your shooting ploy. You just spend for one, which gets you 1 CP a turn, which I think broadly means that you're getting just flat more CP. Because, and that's good. So getting saving a CP each turn to be able to proc both your shooting and melee ploys is nice. And then the stealth relocation, working on up to D3 to be able to get people moving around is quite nice. I don't know if it fixes the problem that I think the team has of APL efficiency. It lets you move a bit further forwards and position a bit better, but I don't think they were struggling too much with that before. I mean, they are a slowish team with only 6-inch movement and shotguns, but I don't think they're that slow. I guess what it does help you for is it helps you with the sniper, because the sniper now has heavy dash, and being able to stealth relocate 3 inches and then dash 3 inches means your sniper's moving essentially 6 inches, which feels a lot more impactful if you need to move from one side of the building to the other to be able to get a shot that you wanted or whatever. So I can see that happening, and adaptable training, being able to flip orders for D3 models. I don't know how often that came up. I mean, the times I played against scouts, the stealth relocation thing was kind of big, being able to move a bit further forwards, or adapt to a threat range problem. But never I didn't ever notice the change order being massively impactful. But maybe that's just because I wasn't playing against them in a certain way. So again, I think it's going to his action. I think it's going to help, and I think the fact the rest of the meta's got weaker is definitely going to help. I think they're going to 47% or something like this. But I think the only thing that's going to push them into meta relevance, in my opinion, is more APL, to be able to get them to do more double shooting, more damage output, and be able to struggle with their bad matchups better. Because at the moment they have some really bad matchups that I just don't think they have the damage to be able to deal with. Namely Deathwatch, Raveners, or any elite really. It feels that way. Maybe I'm being wrong and being harsh, but it just feels that way to me when observing them. Cool, nice. So that was the discussion on those. I will do a separate video and just talk through all the balance changes, but I just want to talk about the bottom teams. Not much change there, not much change at the top, but when you notice that this team has been nerfed, this team has been nerfed, this team has been nerfed, not nerfed, this team has been nerfed, and this team has been buffed, this team has been buffed, this team has been buffed, and this team has been buffed, whatever. You can see that it's going to be an impactful balanced data slate, because loads of buffs at the bottom of the table, nerfs at the top of the table. Hopefully we see a fresh new meta, and I'm really interested to see how the World Championships Warhammer get on, because that's going to be essentially a whole bunch of really high end players adapting to the meta and seeing who can pick up that new meta right now. because there's some interesting teams out there I think are going to be pretty spicy. Okay, sweet. So that is the end of the underperforming teams and the wider meta win rate discussion. As I said, if you want to check out these stats yourself, you can just go to pretentiousplasticops.com. As I said, Smiles Liars and Gunfire runs all this himself. He does all the hard work. I literally just present the hard work that he does. So please do support him and show him the much love and appreciation of getting these stats out there for the whole world to see. It's awesome. Cool, so I'm going to go on to a subscriber benefit. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, then thank you very much. Have a great evening or great day, whatever you're doing, and I'll see you on the next one. But if you are a subscriber and want to hang around, you can get yourself a subscribe benefit, which is a tactical tip. Or you can just click the little subscribe button right now. It really doesn't cost you anything, just a few seconds out of your life. And it helps me promote my channel and hopefully get the message to more kill teamers to play more kill team. So thank you. All right, so the tip is, I see this question a lot, is when to use a -1 or -2 initiative card, right? So I see it all the time when people are like, well, on Reddit, whatever, they're like, I don't know, what's the point in a -1, like, or -2? Like, why would I use that when I can just use, like, just have the initiative or whatever? So the main thing, like, is, if I'm just going to summarize it as quickly as possible, it's if you can be initiative agnostic, then you're in a better position, giving you, like, removing your score to give your opponent initiative and let them choose. And by initiative agnostic, what I mean is you're in a position where the way you position your models, the layout of the board and the board state of the board means that your opponent probably can't hurt you, or can't hurt you in a meaningful way, but you can hurt your opponent via either scoring VP, like the crit op, whatever you're on loot, you can score it and they can't, or you can kill one of their models, whatever it is. So, like, a good example is, let's say you're playing as Raveners and you're initiative agnostic because you've got your Ravener Prime on the center objective, and you can place a tunnel underneath them, and then you can ride that out of sight if you want to. So if your opponent takes initiative, you can use the ride that out of sight, your model can disappear, and they don't have any valid targets, right? But if they give you initiative, that Ravener Prime can loot the objective and charge into two of their models and kill someone, do whatever, right? Like, whatever it is. That's an example of being initiative agnostic. Another one is if you're staging on ITD doors, and maybe your door is closed, but you have 3 APL, and your opponent's door is closed, but they only have 2 APL, they can't interact with you, right? So they know that, or their door's open, whatever it is, but that they can't get to your door, open it, and then shoot you. Whereas you can get to their door, open it, and shoot them, for example, is an example of being initiative agnostic. So this is the mentality is, I can hurt you or I can affect you, but you can't affect me. And that's a great time to use the card. So a tip I gave previously, if you remember, is the cards are effectively a reroll, breaking ties, and then all sorts of things are like +1, -1. So if you break ties, it's like having +1 or -1. So if you are discarding a -1 card and you're gaining a +2, well, if your opponent decides to give you initiative, you're not really any worse off than you were before, right? So, like, the chance of you winning initiative next round is the same, essentially. However, if they had the +2 and they go second, the chance of them winning initiative is significantly more. So if you're in this position where you can afford to play a slower game, you can afford to not have initiative and not decide, then you're as I would describe, initiative agnostic, and therefore able to do it. At which point, it makes far more sense, in my opinion, to give your opponent that decision power and take that initiative card, such that when you're now next turning point, not in that position because you're now more dependent upon initiative, hopefully not initiative dependent, but more dependent, then you're like, okay, well now I need initiative, and I've got a +2, they don't have anything, and maybe you have a reroll, whatever, right? So and or you win on draws because they maybe gave it to you, but because they wanted the initiative next turn, but now they've had to have a painful turning point 2, and then they're into a painful turning point 3. So that's kind of my advice on that one. So if you can set yourself up in a position, which is always good to do, where you're initiative agnostic, think about those techniques that I talked about. Like how can you be in a position where you can achieve that? Things like Kazakin now can do some interesting ones where you can potentially close a hatchway as a siege initiative, right? Like, so you could just go, yep, cool, doors closed because you're going first. And if they're going first, well, then they get to move up and shoot and do whatever they want to do. And it just gives them that sort of freedom to be able to use that initiative in the way that they want to do. So think about those skill sets, see if you can set yourself up in that position, and then, assuming the dice go your way, you can then potentially use your dice to be able to say, yep, with a -1 now, I'm going to either tie, which means that you break it and you have to side, or I'm going to tie, which means, or go below, which then means you now have to choose. And that can be really good. It does require some forethought, but those are the examples, in my opinion, where the -1, -2 makes sense. So that's kind of it. It reduces the initiative ability your opponent has, whilst developing the initiative ability that you have. Okay. That was it for the subscribe benefit tactical tip. Hopefully that was useful. I'll keep doing those each week, and they'll be about something random and that's relevant. If you liked it, chuck a like. If you didn't, chuck a comment and subscribe anyway, because it helps me out. Okay, finally, we're into the Patreon priority questions. So every week I put up a list of questions on my Patreon. People then submit their questions and they say, yep, can you answer this, whatever, and I work my way through, and I'll put up a new list whenever I work my way through them. It's just a way for me to really pay back the patrons that support the channel in such an amazing way, and make sure that they get value out of the channel as well. So let's go into that now. So the question is, this week, against certain hyper-aggressive teams, how do you play passively in such a way that doesn't let the enemy run away with a score? I'm thinking Battleclade versus Aquilans or Goremongers, for instance, where you don't want to push up TP1 or 2 for fear of getting blended, but then they can really start scoring against you with flank. Okay, so few things on this. So let's take Aquilans as a perfect example, because a lot of people, when they play into Aquilans, kind of get worried about falling behind in the game, and I think they have such a set mechanic that you can learn to play against. It does require a few things on your behalf. It requires some movement to be able to play effectively against it, and it requires acknowledging the game state right from the beginning in how it's going to work. So, firstly, if you're playing against anyone with flank, which is what the idea here is, they have to declare that they're going to be playing flank at the start of turning point 2. So you immediately know, okay, this is going to be a flank game. They're going to score X amount of points on turn 2, maybe they get 2 points, whatever. But now I have a method or a route to how I'm going to try and deny that. The next is what the crit op is massively important. So is the crit op something that is scored like quickly? Is it a fast tempo crit op, or is it a slow tempo crit op? Can you afford to hold back and not engage and pick up all the points at the end? Or do you need to engage with the enemy? And then, is there anything you can do to help reduce those threat ranges that they can provide against you with the way your models are placed, the equipment you use, the terrain features, the special abilities of your team, whatever it is. So maybe it's like you have a movement reduction ability that stops Goremongers charging you, or you have you can place equipment down, which means that the exact position, the line in which their melter gunner can drop into the sky, means they would drop onto a razor wire, and therefore they can't place there. Therefore, they can't reach the objective to be able to get within 2 and shoot you, whatever it is, right? But generically, the point I'm going to say about this is the game is 4 turning points, and everyone will suggest to you that the halfway point in the game is the end of turning point 2. That is not correct. Like the halfway point in the game when it comes to scoring is midway through turning point 3, because turning point 1 there's no scoring happening, right? The only way that you can be scoring on turning point 1 is by killing people and achieving kill op essentially, and some niche tac ops. But the main point I'm saying is that you're not going to lose the game by scoring 0 on turning point 1 and 2, right? It might be a contributing factor, but you're not going to lose the game because you have turning point 3 and 4, and that's where the majority of the points are. Also, you should be able to choose tac ops and or with the crit op mission, whatever, find a way to score a little bit during those turning points without necessarily overexposing yourself. So think of it in that way. So there's a positioning requirement and there's a scoring requirement, there's equipment requirement, all that sort of stuff. So let's start with the positioning requirement first when it comes to these teams. Aquilans are way easier to predict against than it is against Goremongers, because Goremongers, again, they can reach you. That's just the way to think about it. But so for Aquilans, their drop marker can only go so far. So just measure it out with your opponent and just agree what it is, and just put like a marker on your deployment. I'm pretty sure it's like 2 inches up from your deployment zone on the longboard edge, and maybe it's like 3 or 4 or something on the shortboard edge. I forget exactly the measurements, but I do it every time I talk to my opponent. I measure it out, and I have a physical marker on my board where I go, if I go beyond this line, theoretically the Aquilans can drop in and kill me. And therefore, on turning point 1, I'm not going to expose anyone beyond that line. And if I, on turning point 2, am going to expose anyone beyond that line, I want to have defensive layers on that, which means that they're not going to happen like in a way that is favourable to the Aquilian player. Potentially that means I'm on guard. It means that I'm on a vantage where the only way you can arrive is by dropping into melee, so they have to fight me. Or it means that the equipment's going to protect me, or I'm going to be in a smoke grenade from the angle it can be shot at, or I don't know, maybe you've got some sort of reactive move, whatever it is, right? So whatever your abilities are to avoid taking damage, you have them ready to go if you're going beyond that line. And the other thing is that the next question you have to ask yourself is, do you have to go beyond that line? So let's say you're playing loot. Can you move your model to be able to touch your home objective, loot it, and dash back off and hide away now outside of threat range? If you're playing ITD, can you do it so you set up a guarding model to watch, and such that if the melter gunner guy drops in, you get to kill them first with a guard or whatever, right? So do you have to go beyond this theoretical line of safety that you have? Because, and if you do, is that worth losing a model over? Like, are you a 14 activation team, 14 model team, where losing a single dude is kind of like whatever? Yeah, I'll throw out a Chaos Cultist onto that objective, and you can kill him with a melter gun if you want, sure, and I'll just kill the guy that killed him. Or are you a elite team where losing, one of your Deathwatch Marines out of 5 is way too much of a cost to pay on turning point 2 for a single VP, right? So those are kind of the questions that you'd be asking yourself. But the main point is that I want to say is, like, you're not going to lose the game on turning point 2. So if needs be, just go down on points and accept that you're going into turning point, and it does feel uncomfortable because they're probably like 4 points ahead of you in turning point 2, right? But then they quickly run out of steam, and then all their models are then deployed, right? So now you have a set knowledge of where stuff is. Against Goremongers and that sort of thing, again, it comes down to equipment and model positioning to be able to achieve things you want to do. So are you able to use barricades correctly, razor wire correctly to force them back? Are you able to use vantage correctly as well? Like body block with better melee models, root block with stuff like that. That's how you're holding that team back, and you're just trying to like make it cost more for them to reach you, which will give you pockets of area that you can operate in safely, and you just have to use those effectively. And then consider like your APL buffs and that sort of thing to be able to reach the objectives you want to be able to reach from the maximum distance away, right? That's kind of the way in which that works. So Battleclade is the example question here. Like, so how would you do this with Battleclade? So essentially, you'd be looking at, okay, turning point 2 against these teams. I'm going to seed board range. I'm going to seed stuff towards me, and and then I'm going to use things like the breach cutting ability to have one-way like ranges. So I know that I can move through this stronghold, but my opponent can't move into me. I'm going to use the ability to have the free dash, sort of like force models through, and then get them to do actions, that sort of stuff, to give myself better threat ranges than my opponent. And that's how I'm going to use those sorts of abilities. Don't get me wrong, like Goremongers I think is a really harsh matchup for you anyway, but that's how I try and use those abilities. And I would wait until my opponent is essentially fully manoeuvred, and then see where I have space to be able to move people further forwards to reach the objective that I need to be able to reach. As I said, I'm aware that the ability to move quickly as Battleclade onto the objectives is hard, but you should be able to set yourself up, say, behind a stronghold, where you can, with a move and a dash, reach a centre objective going through accessible that maybe your opponent can't come back through the other way, or you have like a hatchway that you're behind or something like this, where you can then move to the hatchway, that sort of thing. So that's how I try and do that. But broadly, against, like I said, against Quillins, just draw on the map where it is, hide behind that, and then pick a tack op that you can score late game. Pick a primary op that adheres to that. So if you have no tack op, don't do that. Maybe you go for kill op instead or something, and hope that they overexpose. And then just be aware of the sort of tack ops that they might run. So if they're running flank, then you just go, okay, how am I going to deny flank in turning point 3 or turning point 4, and how can I make that the best way possible? And one of the ways of doing that, like, because they probably get it in turning point 2, say, on both sides, is then you go, okay, well, I'm going to like focus down a flank now, and then focus down the next flank the next turn to try and deny them points. I think for them, retrieval's better personally, and they'll probably go for that instead, and you have to just try and hunt down the retrieval guys. But that's just me. So yeah, that's the main points. Is you can play a slow game. You don't necessarily have to play into the blender. I think a lot of people, they get like a panic of, I'm going down on points, I have to go and engage, and as a result, they end up losing the game when they didn't necessarily have to. Hope that's useful. I'm going to end that one there. I am a little bit tired. It is late. And I've been ill, so hopefully that has been coherent. I'm making an excuse matrix now. Cool, that's the end of that one. I will be back later this week, hopefully with some more podcasts, with some interviews. We've got some painting videos that are on the way, and I need to do some tack-up videos as well. So plenty of content in the works. I've been made all the show notes for the tack ops that are on Patreon now, so I just need to sit down and record it, so that should be good. So I hope you find this useful. If you have any questions about the show, drop it in the comments box below. As I said, engaging with the algorithm really helps, and share it amongst your friends, your fellow kill teamers, and say, hey, look, you got a shout out on the Metawatch, or if you're a TO and you want to get your event hosted, then let us know. Chuck it in the description. Say, hey, my event's not on the Talkify site yet. Here's the details, and hopefully we get more people there. That's what it's all about. Cool. So with that said, I'll end it here, and I'll see you all later on. Take it easy.
That brings us to the end of the episode. Hopefully you found something new or useful while listening, and if you did, throwing us a like would be greatly appreciated. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the bell so you get notifications as soon as the next one drops. It really is the best way to help a small channel like ours. And if you can't wait and you do want early access, we have a Patreon where you can get exclusive access to all our content ahead of time. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Just drop a comment below and we'll get right to you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host Ryan, this has been Turning Point Tactics, and we'll see you next week.